Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share a deeply personal story with you, my struggle with learning English. This journey has been filled with challenges, moments of self-doubt, and incredible growth. I believe many of you can relate to this experience, whether you're learning English or any other language. So, let's dive into my story. Early challenges. I still remember the day I stepped into my first English class. I was excited but also terrified. The classroom was filled with students who seemed to speak English effortlessly. I felt like a fish out of water. The teacher started explaining grammar rules, and I quickly realized how complicated they were. For instance, the difference between he is and he has seemed trivial, but it confused me to no end. I struggled with verb tenses, articles, and prepositions. It felt like learning a whole new way of thinking. My classmates would often finish their assignments before I even understood the instructions. At home, I would sit with my textbooks, feeling overwhelmed by the amount of information. I remember staring at pages filled with rules and examples, wondering if I would ever be able to master this language. The pressure to perform well in class added to my anxiety. The fear of speaking. As the weeks went by, my fear of speaking in English grew stronger. Whenever the teacher asked a question, my heart would race and my palms would sweat. I would stay silent, even when I knew the answer. The thought of making a mistake in front of others was paralyzing. One day, during a group activity, I was asked to introduce myself in English. My mind went blank. I stumbled over my words and felt embarrassed when my classmates giggled at my accent. That moment made me retreat even further into my shell. I started avoiding speaking opportunities altogether. This fear extended beyond the classroom as well. Whenever I had to order food at a restaurant or ask for directions, I would feel a wave of anxiety wash over me. I often relied on friends or family members to speak for me because I didn't want to embarrass myself. Finding motivation. Despite these challenges, I found motivation in unexpected places. My love for music became a turning point in my journey. I started listening to English songs and trying to understand the lyrics. Artists like Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift became my teachers. I would play their songs on repeat, singing along until I could pronounce every word correctly. This not only improved my vocabulary but also made learning feel enjoyable rather than burdensome. Music has a way of sticking in your mind, and soon enough, I found myself humming tunes and recalling phrases throughout the day. Watching English movies and TV shows also helped me pick up slang and conversational phrases that textbooks didn't teach. Shows like Friends and The Office introduced me to everyday language and humor that made me feel more connected to native speakers. Practice makes perfect. Realizing that practice was essential, I began seeking out opportunities to speak English outside of the classroom. I joined a local language exchange group where people gathered to practice different languages. At first, it was intimidating to speak with native speakers, but everyone was incredibly supportive. I met people from various backgrounds who were also learning languages or were eager to help others learn English. We would have conversations about our cultures, hobbies, and dreams. This environment made me feel safe to express myself, without fear of judgment. In addition to language exchange groups, I also started volunteering at community events where English was the primary language spoken. This gave me real-life practice in a supportive setting, while allowing me to contribute positively to my community. Earning resources. As I continued my journey, I discovered a wealth of resources online that made learning more accessible and enjoyable. Language learning apps like Duolingo and Babbel provided interactive exercises that reinforced what I learned in class. As I talked, I began to view the language I had learned as an opportunity, as a lifelong challenge, as a means to liberate my mind, as a way to persevere and progress. YouTube became another treasure trove of knowledge for me. Channels dedicated to teaching English offered lessons on everything from pronunciation tips to grammar explanations in an engaging way. Watching these videos allowed me to learn at my own pace while keeping things interesting. I also found online forums and communities where learners shared their experiences and resources. Engaging with others who were on similar journeys helped motivate me further and reminded me that I wasn't alone in this struggle. Embracing mistakes. One of the most important lessons I learned was to embrace mistakes as part of the learning process. Initially, every error felt like a setback, But over time, I realized that each mistake was an opportunity for growth. I started keeping a journal where I noted down new words and phrases, along with examples of how to use them in sentences. This practice not only reinforced my learning but also helped me track my progress over time. I remember one particular instance where I mispronounced a word during a presentation at school. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I laughed it off and continued speaking confidently. To my surprise, several classmates approached me afterward saying they appreciated how relaxed I seemed, despite the mistake. Celebrating progress. As months passed, I began to notice significant improvements in my English skills. My vocabulary expanded dramatically. I could now hold conversations on various topics without constantly searching for words. One day at the language exchange group, someone complimented me on how well I spoke English. That moment filled me with pride and motivated me to keep pushing forward. It was proof that all those hours spent practicing were paying off. I also started participating in public speaking events organized by local community centers. Each time I spoke in front of an audience, my confidence grew exponentially. The more comfortable I became with speaking English publicly, the more opportunities opened up for me, both socially and professionally. The turning point. The real turning point came when I decided to give a short presentation in English at a community event about my journey with language learning. It was nerve-wracking preparing for it. I practiced for days in front of the mirror and recorded myself speaking. On the day of the presentation, as I stood in front of the audience, some familiar faces from the language exchange group and some strangers, my heart raced again. But this time, something felt different. As I began speaking about my journey with language learning, the struggles I've faced and how far I've come, the audience listened intently. They laughed at my jokes. They nodded along as if they understood exactly what it felt like to struggle with something so challenging yet rewarding as learning a new language. That experience taught me that vulnerability can lead to connection, and that sharing our stories can inspire others too. Conclusion. Here I am today, sharing my story with all of you in English. If you're struggling with a language or any other challenge in life, remember that it's perfectly okay to take your time and embrace your journey. Celebrate your small victories along the way because every step counts. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are essential for growth, and they often lead us down paths we never expected. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or relatable, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. Share your own language learning experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories.